So hi guys, it's marianakebaso. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about how to deal with difficult teachers. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So the first thing that you need to do when dealing with difficult teachers is to make sure that you are not in the wrong first and foremost. Make sure that this teacher is actually a difficult teacher and not you misunderstanding the teacher's directions or the teacher's expectations or the teacher's grading policy. For instance, if a teacher says that an assignment is due at 11:59 tomorrow, you cannot submit the assignment at 2 a.m. and then get mad at the teacher for not grading it if it's stated explicitly in the teacher's grading policy that they do not accept late work and you will get a 0 if you submit work late. So, just make sure that you are doing what is expected of you and what you need to do as a student, as a good student, as that student. You are doing what you need to do, and then establish first that the teacher is genuinely a bad teacher. The next thing is to ask specific questions. So there's different types of bad teachers that you will deal with, but most of the time you can correct the problem by asking questions. So for instance, if you have a teacher who is very vague on directions for homework or assignments or tests or quizzes, ask specific questions. If you're confused on something in class, ask specific questions. If you have a teacher who doesn't really teach that well, ask specific questions. If you have a teacher who tends to, forget to put in grades or will say that they're going to do something and then doesn't, ask questions. Follow up. You can't say, oh, well, I just have a bad teacher and then do nothing about it. You got to do something about it, babes. Talk with the teacher and make sure that you are doing your part. And the tip number 3, be kind and courteous at all times, okay? Do not bring up any attitude with your teacher. Do not try to talk back to the teacher. Do not try to talk with your teacher like they are your friend who is annoying you, because it's just not gonna work, okay? You have to, even if a teacher is being annoying, even if they're not doing what they're supposed to do as a teacher, that is no excuse for you to treat them with disrespect. You need to talk with them with basic respectfulness and kindness. They deserve that at the very least, no matter whether they're being a good teacher to you or not, okay? Okay. Just make sure you're remembering to be kind, okay? And tip number 4 is to be repetitive and consistent in your contacting efforts. So for instance, I just dealt with a teacher who she doesn't put in grades on time. It's been a month since she's put in grades. She doesn't respond to emails within 1 to 3 business days. She doesn't really post any announcements about what is going on in the course. So there were many points throughout this course that I felt genuinely confused and my teacher was not helping me. She was not answering my questions, or she would answer my questions 2 weeks later in her own time, which is just not okay for a teacher. So I had to be persistent on her. For our final assignment, I had to be persistent with her, but you have to be consistent. If the first time that you ask a teacher to correct something or fix something or explain something and they don't do it, or they don't do it adequately enough, you need to go back and ask for more help, for more guidance, for more time, for more additional resources. You need to prioritize your education. I've talked about this in so many videos, but I'm gonna keep saying it. If you want your education and if you want the A and if you want to do well in the course and to understand the material, then you will go after what you want, right? But if you're okay with settling for a B or for a C or for a D, then you're not gonna do the tip. You're not gonna be persistent. But because we are not okay with that, we're gonna be persistent in our efforts in contacting the teacher and making sure that the teacher is teaching, regardless of whether they have been a bad teacher before. With me, they're gonna be a good teacher. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And if you are still persistent and you're contacting them and you're emailing them and you're asking questions in class and you're talking with them before class and after class and they're still not changing anything, they're still not changing their teaching style, they're still not changing the grades, then tip number 5 is to go above them, okay? The great thing about American school systems, I don't know if this is in other countries or in other school systems, but in American school systems, there's always someone above the teacher. There is the principal if you are in high school or middle school, the vice principal if you're in high school or middle school. There is the department head if you are in college. So for instance, if you are taking biology and you have your biology teacher usually has someone above them who is the biology head, the head of the department. So you can go to them, or you can go to the dean of the school. And just going above them, you don't necessarily have to physically be in a meeting with the people above the teacher. Every time I've done this, things happen like this, okay? All you need to do is draft an email, and you need to CC, not BCC, because you want the teacher to see who else you're sending this email to. You want to CC the email to whoever is above the teacher. This will show the teacher that not only are you addressing the problem again, and in this email I usually attach screenshots or evidence that I have contacted the teacher, I have talked with the teacher, I have done everything in my power, and this teacher still isn't changing the grade, this teacher still isn't doing what she needs to do, and now I have no other choice but to go above her and contact her boss, who is the department head or the principal or the dean or the vice principal, anyone who is just above the teacher. And when you do this and you send that email, things happen like this, okay? I have usually never had to go above this step. Just, it works so good, okay? Like, dealing with difficult teachers, this is the best way to deal with them. Go above their head. Just do it, okay? And the next tip is to involve your parents. I have never had to involve my parents. It just never has gotten to the point in which I need to. But if all of the other tips do not work, then involve your parents. Set up a meeting between your teacher and you and your parents, and maybe even a principal or a vice principal or your dean or your department head or someone higher up as well, and sit everybody down. If after the email, after the calls, everything, and stuff still isn't happening, then we need to have a physical face-to-face meeting, and that will be involving my parents, because I am not going to fail this class. We're not going to fail this class. So if you're dealing with a difficult teacher, we're not doing it. We're involving the parent. And if you don't have parents, involve your guardian. If you don't have a guardian, involve your grandparents, because if you're in school in the US, you gotta have someone who is in charge of you. And the last tip is to use different resources. If all else fails, you have done everything you can in your power to work with this teacher. It's still not happening, then you're gonna have to outsource. You're going to have to go to YouTube to teach yourself the material if the teacher is not answering your questions. You're gonna have to go to Khan Academy to get some practice in if your teacher is not grading your practice stuff. You're gonna have to ask someone to grade your work for you so that you can know how you're doing if your teacher is very behind in putting in grades. You're gonna have to ask a different teacher for questions on instructions if your teacher is really slow in responding. You're gonna have to ask your parents for help on an assignment if you know that your teacher is very strict about their late policy. Like, you just have to use the resources that are available to you. And if you live in the US, there are a lot, so there's really no excuse, and that's why it's the last tip, because it really is the last thing you should be doing. The first point of contact should be your teacher, and if all else fails, then outsource and try to do your best to pass the course with or without the teacher's help. And I hope this video helped, did something, made me learn something, and if it did, make sure you leave a like and comment down below. I respond to every single comment, and I would love to hear from you. And yeah, I will see you guys in next week's video, and subscribe if you liked this video. We're on a road to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.